to Lights Out Sienna. Guess what? Today I have a very special guest all the way from England. In today's episode, I got to interview the super fast Alexander SIMS from BMW I Andretti Motorsport. Right now he's a strong contender to win the ABB FIA Formula E Championship. Alexander not only races electric cars, but is a huge supporter of sustainability and electric mobility. So let's get to know him better. I'm going to put my glasses on so we can be twinsies. Hi Alexander, so good to meet you. I have lots of questions for you, so let's get started. First off, can you tell us how you got your start in Formula E?
Well, I got my start in Formula E simply by getting a phone call from BMW actually. That was how I was informed. I remember vividly standing in my kitchen speaking to the person from BMW. With a massive grin on my face after the phone call. It had been something that I wanted to be involved in Formula E for a long time, and I'd been with BMW in GTs for 5 years beforehand. Obviously, they were new to Formula E as a works team going into season 5, and for them to choose me as one of their drivers for that was quite an honour, and left me very happy afterwards.
I'd say, I can't even imagine what it would be like getting a phone call like that. So what are other types of auto racing you've been in before?
I've been really fortunate to do all sorts of different types of racing in my career so far. From karting in the early days through to Formula racing for 5 or 6 years, I think it was, in my sort of junior car career. Then I moved to GT racing and did a lot of endurance racing with BMW, all sorts of various types of competition in Europe, and then went over to the IMSA Sports Car Championship in America for 2 years with Team RLL BMW. Raced at places like Daytona and Sebring, Nürburgring 24 hours, Spa 24 hours, some really awesome races. I cannot stress that enough. I've been really, really fortunate to do all of that before then coming to Formula E, which really is the highlight of my career so far.
That is an interesting path you took. So, let's talk electric cars. Can you tell us what it's like racing electric cars?
Well, racing an electric car, particularly in Formula E, is different in many ways to what I would say is conventional racing with combustion engines. First off, when you pull out the garage, the first thing you notice really is that it's quiet. You know, you hear a little whine from the motor and gearbox, but pretty much it's silent. The racing itself in Formula E is really interesting. We start the race without enough energy in the battery to go flat out for every lap, and so we have to use the cool technology that an electric drivetrain gives you to be able to slow the car down and recharge the battery using the electric motor. That's called regen braking, and try and make the lap as efficient as possible. And so there's this quite unique situation where we have one part of the weekend where we focus on qualifying, which is where we set the grid position for the race, where we drive flat out like you do in every other form of motorsport. But then we have a really extreme level of energy saving and driving efficiently during the race, which is really unlike anything else. So that's really unique to Formula E, and being an electric series, we're able to use that message to promote sustainability, and also develop the latest technology to go back into the road cars of tomorrow.
There are so many technical things to think about when you're racing an electric car. Now, with racing, how do you make a car go faster in attack mode?
Yeah, in Formula E, attack mode is really interesting. It's unique to Formula E, as far as I am aware anyway. We go over 3 timing loops in the ground, which give a small electrical current, I guess, so the car can sense it as it goes over. And then once you activate those 3 strips on the ground in the car, you then get this power boost. And it depends on what the organisers decide. They can set that amount of time for various different lengths. It's normally a 4-minute period, but it has been different in the past. And so, yeah, you get this extra power for 4 minutes where you need to use it and try and overtake people ahead of you before that extra power runs out.
Have you ever got a fan boost before, and how does someone use it?
Well, unfortunately, I've never actually got fan boost myself. I've been teammates with people who have, though, and it's really interesting to see how it can be used to make an overtake at a crucial point in the race where you have more power than the person in front of you, or also maybe to defend and make sure that somebody else behind you stays behind. Normally those are the two scenarios that it's used in. It could be used to try and go for the fastest lap of the race, which means you can score a championship point, but yeah, in the race that's a fairly high risk thing to do. If you can avoid it, it's probably better.
When racing starts again, I'll vote for you for sure to get fan boost. Now, let's talk racing conditions. What is the most difficult condition you've ever raced in?
The most difficult conditions I've ever raced in have got to be back at a track called Spa in Belgium, where we were racing for the 24 hours. And the start of the race with about 55 or 60 cars, it was really wet. And so all those cars going on the one piece of track at the same time pretty much created a lot of spray. And yeah, I just remember going down those main straights, flat out, because it's the start of the race. You have to try and gain positions at 150, 160 miles an hour, and just not being able to see a single thing in front of me. You just have to rely purely on your instincts of where the track's going. You can see a little bit, but barely a few meters in front of you. Braking again on instinct for where you think the corner is. Yeah, utterly mad now I think back on it, but super fun but risky at the same time.
That sounds crazy. Now what's it like to race Formula E in the rain?
Well, racing in the rain is quite tricky. First of all, there's less grip, and we have the same tyre in Formula E that we use in the wet and in the dry, and so you just have to adapt as it starts to rain more to the changing grip levels, but there's no point at which the tyre really stops working. In normal motorsport, you would have a slick tyre which is completely smooth, and those in the wet, they become really treacherous, but at least in Formula E, the tyre is pretty good in all conditions. But certainly visibility becomes difficult. There's a lot of spray that comes off from cars ahead of you. Hopefully there aren't obviously too many cars ahead of you, but yeah, it does make visibility difficult. And so it's a tricky situation, especially on all the street circuits that we go to in Formula E. We just have walls either side of us, and there's no or rarely any runoff road in case you make a mistake to go past the corner and cut back. So you have to have your wits about you, and precision is ultra critical in the wet. You have to make sure that you do things step by step and don't make any big leaps, because if you make a mistake, then it's probably going to be a session over.
Have you ever been in a car crash in Formula E?
In Formula E, the racing is pretty close, and there is a bit of arging and barging between competitors during the race, but thankfully I've not had any big crashes. I've been involved in a few incidents, a few brushes here and there, but the biggest one would probably have to be back in Paris last season, when I hit a bump in quite a fast corner, and the rear of the car just snapped away from me, and I slapped the wall side on. But still, I was able to get the car back to the pits just about. Yeah, we had to get it repaired for the next session, but yeah, fingers crossed. I've never had any big crashes in Formula E.
Fingers crossed for sure. Okay, so what is your favorite Formula E city track?
track in Formula E that I've visited so far anyway. I mean, it's really difficult to choose just one because we visit so many amazing places around the world. But if I had to, I would probably pick New York as a venue. I mean, the fact that we stayed just over the main bridge in Brooklyn, and so to then be able to just go back over to Manhattan in some of the evenings to go to restaurants, just phenomenal. I like New York as a city, and to be able to race there. It was actually the place where I got my first pole position and podium, so that also probably is a reason why I look back on it fondly. But it was pretty amazing to race in New York.
New York is my favorite city too because that's where I'm from. And now, lastly, do you have any interesting hobbies outside of racing?
Well, in terms of hobbies, I guess I do have a few, but in reality, when I'm home, my main priority is my kids. I've got 3 boys and my wife, and so I pretty much go back into just being a dad when I'm at home as much as I can in between doing my work, and being a husband gets pushed into the evenings most of the time, just because the kids do take priority with our time, and just do everything I can for them. I do enjoy exercise. I do enjoy doing a bit of training, and looking after the garden, doing bits and bobs around the house, some DIY, things like that. But these last few years, the kids are pretty much my main source of enjoyment when I'm home.
I'm sure you're a super fun dad to take drives with. Alexander, it's so great to meet you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I can't wait till the season starts again, and I'll be rooting for you to take home the ABB FIA Formula E Championship this year. Alright, racing friends, that's it for this week. Signing off from F1 Sienna out.